Hi, my name is Louis Perkins, and I am the president at the Apparel Impact Institute. I'm sorry that I'm not able to be with you in person today, but I know that you're having very productive and collaborative meetings and discussions. So congratulations on your great work. The Apparel Impact Institute, as you may know, was founded in 2017 with the purpose to identify, fund, scale, and measure proven solutions to help the fashion industry's supply chain achieve environmental and social impact goals. There was a real movement in the industry to align with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, also to focus in on certain key issues related to climate impact and carbon emissions. There were movements related to science-based targets for removing CO2 emissions by the year 2030. And at that time, we recognized that if the industry was going to meet its pretty ambitious goal, it was going to be putting a lot of burden on not just small, medium enterprise suppliers, but many sizes and scale of suppliers across many regions in the globe. And that it would be important that we start to look at a consolidated approach as an industry that engaged and included the manufacturer in a way that ensured we weren't putting a tremendous burden of programming, fragmentation of initiatives, mixed messages around the directions, but that we were starting to align programming. And so we set out initially to work on efficiency within mills. Programs like Clean by Design, also in alignment with programs like Vietnam Race to the Top program at IDH, as well as Solidaridad's Better Mills Initiative, some of the programs that groups like Siwi out of Sweden were running for textile initiatives, and also the IFC's program for PACT. It would be important that we start to look at these as a consistent approach towards helping factories improve, but also incentivizing benefits like a return on investment for lowering your water and energy consumption within the facility. So since that time, we also recognize that there's a tremendous amount of subsidy that will be needed to help support this transition. So we would need to ensure that we weren't adding more debt burden and more problems to the supply chain, but actually be working together to build a positive future. So with that said, we have raised a fashion climate fund. Our goal is to bring in $250 million US dollars equivalent in funds that will be used as grants and subsidy to suppliers and to ventures and solutions in country that are helping to reach these targets and goals. So for the sake of this fund, it's based on climate. And we know that's more than carbon emissions reduction. We know that's also water use and chemical management. It's also impacts land, biodiversity. But our leading key performance indicator for our use of funds in our grant making is going to be related to removing carbon from the supply chain. So the role that AII will play around our $250 million in grant making is to then partner with pledges from debt and equity partners towards $2 billion total in financing towards this work. So this is a global engagement, but it very much needs to have regional support and focus. And that's why we're excited to be working with you and really bringing this to the community in Bangladesh, and those who are most likely to help us carry this work into factories and facilities and farms. So to learn more, click on our website at apparelimpactinstitute.org or apparelimpact.org. And you can also go to the other websites focused on the fashionclimatefund.org. And there you can learn more about the Climate Solutions Portfolio, which is our strategy for getting the money deployed into facilities. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back after the short break. This fourth edition of Sustainable Apparel Forum is organized by Bangladesh Apparel Exchange in collaboration with Lotus Foundation. Congratulations to all of you for being present here today and being a part of this initiative to promote the sustainability agenda within the apparel industry. Thanks to Lourdes Foundation and thanks to our valued title sponsor, KDS Group, Platinum sponsors, PDS Limited, Gold sponsors, Epic Group and Noise Jeans, Silver sponsors, Better Work Bangladesh International Labour Organization, Bronze sponsors, WaterAid, Good Fashion Fund, Oxfam in Bangladesh, and Eastern Bank Limited for partnering with us. Your valued support has made this initiative possible. Valued participants, I'd like to remind you that free Wi-Fi is available. You can use username SAF 2023 and password SAF 2023 to connect. Please scan the QR codes on the tent card on the table to download e-brochure of this conference or even the program agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, Bangladesh is one of the leading garment manufacturers in the world. However, this success has come at a significant environmental cost. By embracing circular economy principles, Bangladesh's apparel and textile industry can reduce waste and emissions, increase efficiency and productivity, and improve its reputation as a responsible and sustainable manufacturing destination. Closing the loop in Bangladesh's apparel and textile industry requires the ability to respond and adapt according to the new information, innovations, and technical breakthroughs. With the right policies, support, and investment, Bangladesh's apparel and textile industry can lead the way in closing the loop and creating a more sustainable future. Now, we are moving into our second plenary session of this forum, Circular Economy in Bangladesh's Apparel and Textile Industry, Closing the Loop. Now I would like to invite the speakers to take their seats on the dais. I would like to request Mr. Topon Kanti Ghosh, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Commerce, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, to please come up. I'd like to request Her Excellency Ms. Winnie Estrup Peterson, Honorable Ambassador, Embassy of Denmark in Bangladesh. I would like to request Mr. Werner Lang, Coordinator, Textile Cluster, GIZ, to please come up. I would like to request Ms. Hilde Van Duyn, Head of Global Value Chains, Circle Economy, to please come up. I would like to request Mr. Mickey Magnuson, Entrepreneur in Residence, NVU, to please come up as well. And to join them on stage, I would like to request Ms. Helen Smith, Chief Sustainability Officer of Recover, to please come up. And finally, I would like to request Ms. Sandra Gonza, Strategy and Business Impact Lead of Tailwind, to come up and moderate the session, requesting the speakers and the moderator to please take their seats on the dais. Thank you very much for taking your seats, and I would like to apologize to all of you in case I've made any mistakes while pronouncing your names. The plenary session will be 45 minutes. A reminder bell will be played on the 20th and 40th minute for the attention of the moderator and the panel. Now I'd like to leave the floor to Ms. Sandra Gonza.
Thank you very much. Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. We're very happy to be here and talking about the topic of circularity. So I've been to Bangladesh for the first time this time. Absolutely honored to meet the hospitality of all the Bangladeshi people here. And in coming to Bangladesh, I think everybody has spoken to me and told me that from the start, Bangladeshis have had a tradition of recycling, a tradition of circularity. This has always been something that was intrinsically Bangladeshi, the ability to recycle and change and reuse everything that they had. Although over the last 5 years, this has started to change. We are seeing the pileup of waste. This transition is actually quite needed. So I'm very happy to be with these distinguished guests to actually discuss this a little bit more. Unfortunately, Mr. Topan, I think, is not able to join us at this point, but I would like to start with Her Excellency Winnie from the Ambassador of Denmark and ask you the first question being, What do you see as the importance of collaboration within circularity for Bangladesh?
Thank you very much for your question, and thank you for inviting me here. Now, if we take as a point of departure that Bangladesh already has the highest number of green factories, 186 in fact, LEED certified, that's a good starting point for going circular. And I can see that already also many Bangladeshi factories are ready to take the next step towards circularity. They recognize that this is the way this business is going. And also because many of them, and I really admire that very much, are concerned about their country, about their environment, etc. So that's a very good point of departure. Now, building on that, international partners can be very valuable for bringing in technology and knowledge. And so that Bangladesh will have the needed technology to take that step. There's a lot of innovation and resilience in this country, but it's also very good to look to the international arena to get even more inspiration and access to what is already there. And many international partners are actually eager to partner with Bangladeshi companies in this journey. We see brands, for instance, in this forum, we see brands, partners, knowledge partners, etc. So everything is actually ready. And for Denmark, we have a long and rich history of innovative technologies aimed at circular economy. So we stand ready also to support the industry in that. And from the Danish government side, we are supporting research and projects who can also help going along. I'll not go into details, but just flagging these issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think just to build on that, there is indeed quite a lot of international collaborations that we're seeing coming into Bangladesh, prioritizing circularity. I think we see a surge of a lot of partnerships that are being developed in Bangladesh around building the resiliency around circular activities for the textile industry here. And I'd like to go to Mr. Wiener and ask you, maybe, as GIZ established here, you have quite a number of initiatives that have been established in Bangladesh across the garment industry. And I'd really would like to understand why Bangladesh, what are the priorities that you and your initiatives are focusing here?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here and talk about a bit German Development Cooperation. We are working here as an implementer on behalf of the German federal government, and it's specific our Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. But not only technically, we also have financial cooperation with our development bank, and I think financing is an important bit of this circle we are talking about. Our portfolio in Bangladesh is covering several areas. It's not only the textile cluster I'm responsible for. We also have a cluster addressing rule of law, also important. Renewable energies, climate change, biodiversity, and of course, last but not least, the textile cluster, which is not only addressing the garment industry, also the leather sector as well. And here we are covering areas like social dialogue, industrial relations, higher education and TVET, keyword green jobs, occupational health and safety, especially in connection with tanneries, social protection, environmental and chemical management, industrial safety, due diligence, and in addition we also have a regional approach where we try to bring together associations from 6 countries. So beyond Bangladesh, it's Pakistan, Myanmar, Cambodia, Vietnam, and China, to share our views from, let's say, a private sector perspective, to have a common understanding of challenges and also solutions, which we partly develop under the projects we are having in these countries. But I think here in Bangladesh, with this strong portfolio of projects. We are contributing a lot also to other countries. Why is Germany so strongly committed? Still the strongest export destination for Bangladesh in Europe. Also for partners here on the ground, especially the Scandinavians, whether it's H&M, IKEA, or Lindex, for example, have strong shares in the German consumer market, so we are more or less sitting in the same boat. But also vice versa, if you think about the market leader in shoes, Deichmann, is also present everywhere in Europe and also in Northern America. So the upcoming regulatory framework is more or less setting the scene for all of us. And I think when it comes to circularity, it needs vision. Thank you, Mostafis. It needs policy, but at the end of the day, it needs implementation. And I think this is exactly the point where we can contribute, because our core competencies, that's how we see us, and I hope it's touching reality, is it's capacity building and training. It's about stakeholder management, providing technical expertise, and our understanding is to be the middleman between these thriving forces and deliver a contribution in coordination.
Thank you very much. And I guess jumping into one of the projects that is taking place in Bangladesh right now, I'd like to go over to Hilda and just ask you, I know circular economy together with UNIDO are implementing a project right now within the value chains of Bangladesh. Could you tell us a little bit more about what your priorities are right now and how they're addressing the circular economy here?
Yes, of course. So let me first start with a short introduction on circular economy, if I may. Circular Economy is a think tank based out of Amsterdam in the Netherlands, but active across the globe. We are supporting businesses and governments in the transition to circularity, and we have been doing so since 2012 already. Every year we measure how circular the world is in our Circularity Gap report, some product placement, sorry. And in this year's edition, we found that the world is now 7.2% circular. In 2018, our first report, we were 9.1% circular. So we are moving in the wrong direction. Maybe something for us to just add to the urgency of today's conversations. And textiles is one of the focus sectors at Circular Economy. So let's move to switch to circular economy value chains, our project in Bangladesh. As you know, and as was also highlighted this morning, the European Union has high ambitions on circularity. However, to realize them, they rely on the ability of brands that put products on the European market to be able to put more circular products on the European market. And these brands, in their turn, they rely on the ability of manufacturers to become more circular. So the Switch project, therefore, has been launched by the European Union and the government of Finland to support the transition to circularity in key production countries like Bangladesh. So as I mentioned, the Switch project is funded by the European Union and the government of Finland. It started in 2021 and it will last until 2025. Lead implementation partner is UNIDO. Also the UNIDO office here in Bangladesh is responsible for local coordination and communications. And of course they do so in collaboration with the government of Bangladesh. And the project, to come to your question, the project actually consists of 4 different work streams. And we believe that it's really the combination of these work streams that is essential. So on the one hand, we are piloting technical innovation and ethical and traceable value chains together with Bestseller and H&M. We are also providing policy support led by Chatham House. We are looking into access to finance. That is a work package led by the European Investment Bank, so really to assess whether the right financial instruments are now available and whether action is required. And Circular Economy is leading on a package on awareness and knowledge building on circularity amongst manufacturers, but also knowledge institutes here in Bangladesh. Because what we want to do is not only to disseminate knowledge that we have at Circular Economy on the circular economy, but especially to contribute to building that knowledge here in the country to accelerate the transition to more circularity. I'll pause here.
Thank you very much. And I will come back to the whole knowledge building. I think that's a key area to moving the needle forward. But over to you, Helene. It's a pleasure to have you here because I also think Recover has recently opened a new recycling facility here in Bangladesh, addressing the textile waste. And I'd really like to learn a little bit more about specifically Recover, but also to understand what you see as the opportunities for Bangladesh, why you came to Bangladesh to establish this activity, and also understand, how's that gone so far?
Thank you so much, Sandra, and thanks for having me here today. For those of you who don't know Recover, we are a global producer of recycled fibers, recycled cotton fiber and cotton fiber blends. And we have our vision to create a circular fashion for all by creating cost-competitive, low-impact, high-quality recycled fibers for the market. Welcome. So we build on a heritage of over 70 years of experience. We started to do this recycling in Spain back in 1947. So why did we come to Bangladesh? Because there is a huge opportunity here. Some of the numbers estimate that there is that we generate here around 577,000 tons of textile waste every year. This clipping waste is our raw material, so this is, of course, a big opportunity. But at the same time, also all our customers are here because there is a thriving spinning industry, and of course, you're the second largest exporter of garments in the world. On top of that, we are also based on the industrial park of Beximco. This is our partner here, and this has been a big benefit to us coming here. The opportunity of recycling to leverage circularity here in Bangladesh is great because really recycling is, let's say, the missing link that can make the chain into a circle. So it's very important that we build this capacity here, and we're very happy and proud to already be here. We've been here for about a year, and while these opportunities are there, we are also facing many challenges at the same time. And one of the challenges that we are facing is around the raw material. And I'm going to speak quite frankly here today. The informal waste sector is really challenging to navigate. We are having issues securing enough feedstock or enough raw material for our factory in the quality that we need. And from our perspective, there's actually a scarcity of good quality clip, and we see also some inflated prices. If we want to foster textile-to-textile recycling here in Bangladesh, not only for Recover, but also for other technologies to come here, we need to have a good waste supply. This needs to be well established and compliant, and it needs to work for all the players involved. So we need to have a system that is working and is benefiting all the stakeholders. So the factories, the waste handlers, the recyclers, and even the spinners. And we need to have a win-win-win-win business case for that. And we've seen that this is possible, not only through the hubs that we have in other production hubs worldwide, but also here in Bangladesh, through the work of the Circular Fashion Partnership and Reverse Resources. We know that there is a positive business case to make. We can confirm as a recycler that it's possible to have higher quality inputs at a good price, including even the traceability that we need, but also our customers really, really need. So it's possible. But we see that there is a limit to scaling this, and that there is the informal waste sector that is hampering kind of the scaling of this system that we need to really thrive here. So I'm advocating really, if we want to have circularity here, if we want to have textile-to-textile recycling here, this is something that we really need to tackle. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you very much. Really highlighting it's possible. The opportunities are here. Thank you very much. And I'd like to circle back and say thank you, Mr. Topan, for actually making it. I actually started the panel with really saying the history of Bangladesh with regards to an inherent nature towards recycling. I think one of the words one of the people here told me today was Ponor Bebohor, specifically referring to recycling and the reuse of everything that is around you. Naturally, that's what most Bangladeshi people used to do. And I think one of the questions I really had for you as a representative of the Bangladeshi government was to understand how important is the circular economy really for Bangladesh? And maybe what do you see as the opportunities that intersect with social and economic development for Bangladesh?
No, thank you very much. I didn't listen to other, speakers earlier, so I'm sorry if I go a bit out of context, but I think it's very important, needless to say, for any country to, and especially when we are talking about the, resource depletion, the conservation of environment. So if we can reuse the materials that we have, of course it is gainful for the economy of Bangladesh. And it is more so for Bangladesh because Bangladesh is the second largest garment exporting country, that's true, but most of the raw materials are coming from outside. The cotton, everything actually, cotton, fabric, everything. So, we are spending a lot of foreign currency also to import that. So we need to really, use those, leftover materials that we are maybe exporting now. If we can use inside the country, we can have the circular economy. I think that is very appreciable. But what Ms. Helen also saying that it must be a business case. Because if we want to, we make the policy, I can stop the export of the raw materials, the leftover. But that is not desired and that is not, even approved by the European Union policy. Because we all are champion of open economy, no restriction on import and export, all these things. In that case, it has to be a business case that you have to pay more for the raw materials. Because why do people export to India, not in, maybe there is less facility in Bangladesh, maybe they are getting mass price in India. So there must be, that has to be a business case, of course, but we can, revise our policy. And if there need be, we can also allow import of this leftover or the, to bring the circular economy. Because now it is not permitted to import any used products or, the old products in Bangladesh. So there is also limitation of importing. But first I think we go for the, whatever we have to go for recycle in our industry. And as mentioned by Helen, that almost 600,000 tons are being produced as a byproduct of our RMG industry. And as we are going for expansion of our RMG industry, and the BGMEA is forecasting that by 2030 they are going for export of $100 billion US. So it is expected that that would generate much more, this leftover products, byproducts. So why not? I think it would be very much required and very much desired for the economy of Bangladesh to go for this circular economy. Thank you.
Perfect. Great timing as well. Thank you very much. I think that segues really perfectly into what Mick very much talks about. I think Mick is here from NVU, and I think you take a very unique approach at NVU in terms of venture building. Can you tell me a bit more about your activities and your approach to building circular business models?
Yeah, sure. So NVU is a startup studio, meaning that we are firm believers in the entrepreneurship as a force to change. We are a foundation, so it's non-for-profit, and we are supporting and starting up initiatives. In essence, what we're trying to do is to build small, maybe larger, proof of the business case that is needed for circularity. Now, all these conferences, and also today, we hear a lot about climate change is bad, it's going to be, basically we're all going to die, and it's a big disaster. Now, we look upon climate change and impact as a business opportunity. And if you turn the mental framework around and say, hey, this is a business opportunity, here we can employ a lot of people and we can actually drive change forward. Super easy to say on stage, very difficult to do in reality. But in reality, what we do is that we support and we start companies to intervene in existing or non-existing functional and non-functional supply chains. That's what we do. Here in Bangladesh, we've thanks to funds provided by organizations like P4G, we set up this initiative to see So what is the functional business model that is inclusive for and makes relevance for suppliers and manufacturers, as well as for brands and retailers, as well as for recycling technologies, etc. In reality, are we going to work with a buy and sell model, which in effect is a linear business model trying to produce a circular product? Or are there other ways to look at the business model to see how we can be more inclusive? So this is, in essence, the project. Maybe it sounds a little bit fluffy, but it's about really saying, how do we get this business model to work? How do we unlock the feedstock so it makes sense for the producers as well as for the recyclers? It needs a little bit of thinking. It needs a lot of knowledge, blood, sweat, and tears.
Thank you very much. I think at this moment you've practiced it before. We're going to turn it over to you, the audience, and ask you to scan your badge. I don't have mine anymore. But scan the back of your badge, and there is a question that we have for you all to hopefully be able to contribute to what you think is currently the biggest challenge and barrier to actually achieving the circular economy in Bangladesh. So we'll wait for you to answer. As you're answering, the questions will soon pop up on the screen so that we can see what the majority thinks. We see some interesting questions there. Couple of technical difficulties, but we'll get there. I guess as we're waiting to see what will come up, the question really was, what do you think are currently the biggest challenges? Oh, there we are. It's coming. So what do you think are the current biggest challenges and barriers to adoption of circular economy in Bangladesh's apparel and textile industry? So far we're seeing regulations, national policy, and support seems to be winning. Closely followed by the support for circular economy infrastructures. It's changing constantly. Let's see. I do think there's a clear winner on national regulations, national policies, and support. And I think over back to the distinguished speakers today, to understand maybe individually whether you agree with this, is this a challenge that you see that you're facing in your activities, or do you think that there's something that's potentially missing from this list that isn't being addressed? I'd be curious to understand, and happy for any of you to take it forward. Please go ahead.
I don't agree fully, but particularly with regard to regulation, national policy and support. Actually, there is not much barrier in this regard. What is happening, maybe this is a sector, people don't know, Bangladeshi entrepreneurs don't know. So there is always a fear of unknown. What will happen? How is the linkage? They have to export to other countries. So that is the case, number one. Number two is the lack of investment maybe. we need a lot of investment from outside Bangladesh in conjunction with our domestic investment. You know, because maybe now this volatile situation, the rate of interest is high and all these, so maybe, and there are some perception gap also, you know, that we don't get that amount of FDI that our comparable countries are getting, and also technology. I think these are the issues that features more, because policy, I don't think that there is any, you know, now I mean the export of the leftovers, the byproduct of the garments, that is permitted, the 600,000 tons. But you can always buy this. There is no restriction on buying and investing in the circular economy. So I think there is no, and another thing is that if you want to buy the used garments in the Europe or America, bringing back to Bangladesh, and then you know, using those in the circular economy, that is also possible. A little change in our import policy is needed. That we can do. But I think it's the initiative, the entrepreneurs, you know, the global entrepreneurs and Bangladesh, they need to invest in the new technology. This is an unknown area, in the sphere of unknown on the part of our business. Because it needs also, I think, I don't know, I am not an expert on this, maybe it requires also much more investment. And if that investment is not compensated by the higher price, that is a risk also. And that is not always guaranteed by the brands and buyers. Because it only gives you the, you know, the entry into that market, but it doesn't guarantee the price. So that is also, we need to work with our partners, the brands, that if their price is guaranteed, then they will go for the investment and the technology. And I think there requires the FDI from other countries also to fill this gap. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah, so please.
Well, I agree that there's a need for technology and investment, but I would like to offer an opposing view as a company that is actually also based here now. If the environment is truly an enabling environment for entrepreneurs to thrive here, and talking about the recyclers or the technologies that you do want to attract, I feel the money will follow. So we need to have an enabling environment that is attractive for businesses to be here, and that includes policy, and includes, I mean, even in Europe, we have an issue that we are still facing old rules that have been designed for a linear system. So you need to look at your policies, you need to look at your rules. Are the incentives incentivizing the correct behavior? Circular economy requires a different behavior. So I for sure believe that there needs to be a look at policies and see how, at all the different levels, they can be aligned with the ambition of going towards the circular economy. And that includes the waste sector and formalizing the waste sector, because without, you know, having the steady supply of raw materials, no recycler that wants to be here can make their business case. So this is an important point that we really need to address. At the same time, one of the other things that I don't see here, but it's also a big enabler, is renewable energy. I mean, mechanical recycling, what we do is one of the lowest impact recycling technologies in the market, but even we have a relatively high demand for energy, and we want this to be renewable, to be able to offer a product that is in line with the expectations of the European market. And if you want to attract also chemical recyclers, which have even a higher energy demand than we do, to be this ecosystem where we can recycle all the different types of materials that are, you know, being produced, there needs to be also the renewable energy infrastructure. So environment of enabling policies, renewable energy, the availability of resources really is key, and then for sure the technology and the investment will follow. I'm confident of that.
Yeah, more or less everything is said. But I would like to refer once again what Mr. Topangosh said. I think when we are talking about waste and not about resources, I think we still tend to talk about waste. We all know that waste handling is a shady business everywhere in the world, not in Bangladesh, everywhere in the world. And I think the challenge is not only for Bangladesh, it's also for Europe when it comes to regulation. Currently, we are sending our waste to Africa. So if the new legislation in Europe will force retailers and brands to take back merchandise, what to do? The linear way backwards, or is it really a different view, like a circle? So I think regulation is is heavily affected. I just talked yesterday to the CSR responsible person from Kick, a German discounter, and they are heavily nervous what is coming up to them when consumers are returning products to the stores. Who is handling that? Where do we leave it? And do we find solutions to return it into the circle? Yeah, that's what I hear everywhere. Regulation is necessary. And I think this is where we can offer from German Development Corporation somehow to coordinate, because it's along the entire, and it's still a chain, it's along the entire circle, and there we love to contribute.
Well, I'll go next then. Maybe stating the obvious, but of course all of these, and that's also why in the Switch project we try to work on policy, access to finance and capacity building. But I think another very important element is action, piloting. Because just working on those, I mean, I think there's really a feedback loop between, on the one hand, taking action, trying new things, and then that informs policy development, access to finance, and knowledge requirements as well. So I think it's very much a combination of these things. And I think, and Wern also related to that, as I just mentioned, we are not there in terms of circularity in the world. There's not one country in the world that can currently say that they fully adopted circular practices. So they have a lot to learn. They could learn from Bangladesh, and Bangladesh could learn from other countries as well. So I think also here, let's maybe not forget that Bangladesh is not alone in its transition to circularity, but we can really build on what is happening elsewhere. And those other countries can build on what is happening here. And I definitely think they could build on the enormous amount of energy there is here around circularity. You might hear my voice is a little bit down. It's just because I had so many meetings in the past weeks for people that are interested in circularity. And I think that is maybe the best way to start.
Yeah, I mean, you maybe missed it, but the massive opportunity for driving circularity is there. The customers, we look upon the big customers like regions like Europe and US, is also kind of asking for it. Now, the UN is tracking the national recycling rates, and it is a competitive advantage. It's under 12, 5, 1, everybody can find it. The government in Bangladesh is also reporting upon it as one of the few countries actually doing it. In reality, this is not only a competitive advantage for businesses, but it's also a competitive advantage for the country and for the entire sector. Otherwise, we will be stuck with price, and you will be competing on price. As a unity, as a industry sector, and as a country, you have a competitive advantage opportunity, and I would really encourage everybody to grab it.
If I may, I would like to add another perspective. We are always talking about cost, but in my definition, cost includes also a value. And of course, it's our challenge in the consumer markets to convince consumers that water and air and waste has a value. I mean, we call it value chain currently because it's a chain which contains value. The moment we are inclining cost for environment and energy, the value grows, the cost as well, and of course the question is who is paying for it. And that buyers and manufacturers are pointing to each other will definitely not bring the solution. We have to convince consumers to pay more for garments. And the fashion model looks differently. Price, 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 fast, fast, fast. So leaving out the consumer will not bring the solution. So it's a challenge. And I think European Union is trying to regulate. And this touches also consumers.
I think a lot of people agree. I think I'd just like to probe a few more questions as we're going on, and maybe just ask the ambassador whether or not you think, for example, the role of collaboration, and especially looking at the EU, looking at Denmark's perspective, how do you see you could foster and sort of enable some of these collaborations to address some of the challenges?
Well, I'm sure you all know about the new EU regulations coming up over the coming years. That is a very strong driver for changes towards sustainability and documentation of reduced climate change impact, etc., etc. And I think we are all struggling to foresee that and adapt our industries, our support, etc., to that new reality. From Danish government, of course, we are partner in the EU. We take part in those discussions. Our industry is doing the transition together with their suppliers in Bangladesh. Danish government supports research, but I would like to point also to the fact that circularity is actually, if I may say so, quite a new item. We feel it's been there forever, but it has not. For Bangladesh, I think very much for me at least, it was with an analysis by the Global Fashion Agenda together with the BGMEA, 18 global fashion brands, 15 innovative recyclers and 80 manufacturing facilities in Bangladesh. They made an analysis and they showed how much the economic impact of circularity, just using the pre-production remains would be a huge amount of money, and I think that was a huge eye-opener in Bangladesh. Since then, it has spread like rings in water, mobilizing a lot of partners and stakeholders internationally in Bangladesh, as we see also today, and in other kinds of this kind of fora, which are very useful to also pull us all together to work on that agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And maybe to build on the answer of the ambassador here, the legislation that is coming can seem like, oh my God, what's coming? But I think it's part of the opportunity. If Bangladesh has the ambition to grow towards 100 million export by 2030, part of this export is going to be driven by the circular economy and by recycled materials. The eco-design regulation that is coming in Europe is going to put mandatory targets for recycled content in garments. So if you can deliver those garments with recycled content, you have a competitive advantage. There's going to be incentives, direct financial incentives for the brands to put these garments on the market as well. So again, there's a huge opportunity. Some brands are saying we cannot have these targets because we don't have access to these materials. Well, here we have a lot of capacity, a lot of waste, a lot of technology, where we can actually maybe have an answer to that demand. So Bangladesh can fulfill that demand. So again, there's really the opportunity to play on that regulation that's coming.
Thank you. And maybe just, again, really to quote, I think, one of the panelists before, and something that maybe has not been touched upon as much in this session, was really, I think it was Noreen who said, sustainability or circularity comes at a cost. So really looking at what is the cost of the transition to circularity, and I'm not sure if any one of you are willing to take on that question, what would be the cost that would be to transition towards circularity for Bangladesh's apparel industry?
I mean, from our perspective, of course, there is always, you have to transition. So there's investment to build knowledge, to build even awareness and mindset change, to have here the technologies and have the infrastructure. So that's investment. But if I look at, what we do as a recycler, we aim to have our fibers to be cost competitive. So the idea is that in the end, a recycled product or a circular product does not necessarily have to be much more expensive. There are steps that we can take there are, let's say, inefficiencies in the chain. You have to make an effective system. If you talk about post-industrial waste, I'm really confident that it's possible. When we talk about post-consumer recycling, it's much more challenging. And I do want to open again and stress the point that you were making before, in that currently, because of the limiting, there's no availability to import these materials or these garments into Bangladesh, with a good reason, because there can be some risks to that. But what if Bangladesh can also play a role in transforming the post-consumer waste that we are generating into new materials? And that can also be a really interesting, more longer-term opportunity to seize. And there I will say that I might see some more difficulties and challenges to make that completely cost competitive from the start. But again, in the end, when we are at the level of an efficient and scaled system, I'm confident that we can come very far.
You want to go? I think it's a difficult question to answer, but if you consider that a Dutch entrepreneur told me last year, I'm able to manufacture a t-shirt in the Netherlands for the same cost as Bangladesh. We talked about that, you are doubting, I know. If you consider that the amount of water producing a t-shirt is equivalent of roughly 10 euros. Someone said yesterday to me, yeah, but it includes cotton growing. Yes. So think we would put additional 10 euros on a t-shirt. So yes, we are talking about new business models. Linear, circular is a complete different approach. And I think there lies the biggest challenge. How to rethink this model of garment business. This is the biggest one.
So, yeah, I would like to add two things. One, it's not cost, it's investment. When we speak about money out, it's an investment. When we buy machinery, it's an investment. It's not cost. It doesn't hit our P&L first year. Let's just agree. Second one is, what's the alternative cost? What's the alternative cost of continuing? So what is the real cost? You speak about dignified work, you speak about compliant material, and so on. And you started comparing, you see the business case is actually not that, the gap is not that big. And I think it's very important to know that and consider this.
Thank you so much. I mean, I think we are very much coming to the end of our time, and I really would like to thank every single one of you for being here and engaging in this conversation. And I think, as was announced earlier, there will be a Circular Economy Summit to really dive a little bit deeper into this, because I think one-off sessions are not proving to be able to build on this. So by the time we meet again, we'd like to see, where have we progressed? How has that gone? What do we need to commit to as we move forward? And thank you very much. And thank you, Mustafiz, for hosting this and enabling us to be here and have these important conversations.
And with that, we've come to the end of the session. We will conclude it with a group photograph, requesting the speakers to please stand together. Thank you very much once again. Ladies and gentlemen, now we will have a presentation how SAC is mobilizing collective action on decarbonization. This segment will be presented by Ms. Joyce Soy, Director, Collective Actions Program of Sustainable Apparel Coalition. Duration of this present will be 10 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Joyce Soy for her presentation.
Testing? Okay, good. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am truly grateful to be back to Bangladesh. Since before COVID, I was here in 2019. I've seen a lot of changes in the last few days when I'm in Bangladesh. So All the best, and you're doing a great job, and there's a lot of positive development within the Bangladesh that I'm seeing in the last few days, so congratulations. So I'm here, my name is Joyce Choi, as mentioned, from the MC. I lead the Collective Action Department as the Sustainable Apparel Coalition. Just put up your hand if you know the Sustainable Apparel Coalition. Wow, a lot of hands. Okay, so I won't dive into details what is Sustainable Apparel Coalition. We can dive straight into our decarbonization program. So as you probably know, the SAC, we are here to support the apparel, footwear, and textile industry. We represent 45% of the apparel, footwear, and textile sector. And we are here to transform the business for exponential impact through engaging with groundbreaking tools such as the Higg Index. So I'm sure a lot of you know the Higg Index quite well. And we collaborate through partnership and trusted leadership to enable our industry to become sustainability leaders and transition into net zero, which is truly important. As mentioned by many speakers this morning, we need to work on climate change. We need to promote collective action. Okay. We'll talk a little bit. So in the SAC, we have 280 plus global members, which representing brands and retailers, manufacturers, and affiliate members, which represent NGO, academics, non-governmental organizations. We represent 33 countries and represent around 845 billion of annual revenue. So that means we are representing more than 45% of the global apparel industry. The Higg Index, I'm sure you are very familiar. Put up your hand if you are using the Higg Index. Very cool. Very, very cool. Thank you for using the Higg Index. So the Higg Index, I won't go into very much details about how the calculation works, and I won't ask you what score you're scoring for your facility, all right? So I'll tell you a little bit more about the next step, what you need to do after you get your score. So the Higg Index actually has 5 key type of tools. We have the Material Sustainability Index for you to measure the material impacts of your materials. We have the Facility modules, which measure every single factory of your environmental impacts, water, energy, chemicals, wastewater, air emissions, those 7 impact areas that you are actually measuring in each of your facility. And we have the FSLM, a lot of acronyms here, Social and Labor Convergence, and also the FSLM, the Fair Labor modules, which helps you to evaluate your social performance of your facility. We also have brand and retail tools which help any companies who want to understand about their sustainability performance. So just go into a little bit, I won't go into details. A lot of you agree with me that climate change is felt across 7 different continents. So you will see here, Europe, a lot of impact is being felt. In Bangladesh specifically, we are looking into a lot of droughts, and either you have monsoon season, you have a lot of flooding occurs, which affect a lot of communities. And then you've seen in more developed countries like New Zealand, Australia, there's also drought and floods happening, and it's a lot of many different unpredictable weather, which actually affect a lot of workers and communities around the world. So this is what we need to do to mitigate climate change through collective action, because one individual company would not be able to solve this problem. And then the apparel and footwear sector, where we are now, we are representing around 2 to 8% of the global greenhouse gas emission. And we are feeling a lot of pressure. I'm sure you are feeling a lot of pressure from your buyers, from regulators, how many requirements I need to fulfill, right, before I get my order. And globally, as some of the ministers and speakers in the opening, which said, globally, we are not doing so well, right? But I think climate change, you need to take regional and local actions. So we are here, from the SAC, we are here to convene our members and the industry to drive towards a low carbon transition. And as you probably know from the IPCC report and the UN Environmental Programme report, which tells you there's a dire warning. We need to take action now, and we need to do it fast. We have 3 years to do this before any disasters or any catastrophic effects that would happen across the world. And look at this. If we look at the climate clock, we have 6 years and 4 months to do this. Together, we have to do it fast. So with the SAC, which is represent half of the apparel and footwear and textile sector, one of our strategic objectives is to activate our ecosystem for action. It is to engage with every single one of you sitting here in this room. And also, beyond that, with other factories, other value chain partners, workers, and community across the world. One of our key aspirational objectives is to mitigate climate change. I believe mitigating climate change is not enough. We also need to look at ways to build climate resilience. And I don't have all the solutions for you. We need to co-create the solutions together. Okay, so one of our objectives is to halve our emissions in line with science-based target by 2030. Okay. So we did some research a couple of years ago with the WRI, the World Resource Institute, and the Apparel sector, AII, so Apparel Institute and Impact Institute. And we found that we need to, the apparel sector will keep growing to around 1.5 gigatons of greenhouse gas emission by 2030. We need to get the curve down into 50%, which is, if you calculate your mass, is around annually, we need to reduce around 57.5 megatons of greenhouse gas emission per year. And with the SAC, we are trying to roll out this decarbonization program, provide enough support and guidance and assessment tools. I call assessment tool, which is a standardized assessment tools, which will help supply chain partners in order to measure greenhouse gas emission. And we are also helping industry partners and members to commit and set science-based target. After setting science-based target, we also want to convene and create synergies with industry partners like the Bangladesh Apparel Exchange and many different partners here in order to create actions and impact. So here is our decarbonization program, how we are going to reach 45% reduction by 2030. And our longer-term goal, of course, is to hit net zero by 2050. So you will see here, we are providing educational and advisory support for members, including manufacturers, in order to set science-based target. Secondly, we are creating Top Action Club to enable our members to drive rapid actions. Thirdly, we are developing detailed guidance and tools in order to have a standardized method in order to measure greenhouse gas emission. I'm sure you're familiar with the FEM, Facility Environmental Module. Is being upgraded in the last 2 years. Thanks to all the stakeholders who are in the working group who helped to co-create this standardized industry tool. And if you wanted to look at the tool in a more detail, you can go into the technical paper. And the FEM 4.0 will be rolling out in November this year. Looking into the Bangladesh insights, We have 1,000 facilities, I would say, in the current facility environmental module. 80% of the manufacturers are verifying their modules, and we are seeing that 9.12 megatons of greenhouse gas carbon emissions are coming from 800 plus facilities. And only 2% of facilities are setting science-based target, which is around 15 factories are actually in the process of setting science-based target. In terms of energy sources from the 800 facilities, we know that the top energy sources are natural gas, LPG, and electricity. Most of the energy are coming from fossil fuels. This is something that we really need to work on in terms of switching to renewable energy sources and cleaner energy sources. We are here to help. We launched our decarbonization guideline in 2 weeks ago, and it's, we provide a 6-step process in order to help anybody who wants to work on science-based target, anybody who wants to go on the decarbonization journey. So you will see here understanding and get buy-in from your management on why you need to set science-based target, how you commit and set science-based target, how you set baseline, how do you validate your target, communicate, and set a decarbonization pathway. I would say from the last year that we have been working with members in the SAC, we have managed to increase the science-based adoption rate by 16% across our membership. Here is our ongoing engagement and support to our members. So we provide SBT guidance. Please also look at apparelcoalition.org to look at the decarbonization guidance and what we are doing to support the industry. We provide the peer-to-peer learning groups for manufacturers, members to come in and talk about their challenges and find common solutions. We also are going to roll out SPT training to support manufacturers to work on their greenhouse gas inventory, in particular scope 1 and 2 emission, because we have just rolled out our membership requirement in 2023, and we are supporting our members to set their scope 1, 2, and 3 targets, and we are supporting our manufacturers to set their science-based target into scope 1 and 2 target. We are also rolling out Top Action Club to be able to convene with the industry partners and supply chain partners in order to drive climate action faster. So here, with the membership and the engagement with the industry, we want to drive a wider impact through our ecosystem partnership. And we are working with AII, United Nations, Fashion Charter, the Industry Reward, CDXC, and the Pakistan Environmental Trust. So more detail, you can freely download our decarbonization guidance. I will stop here because I think my time is out a few minutes. So thank you for listening, and I'm happy to have a chat with all of you to understand about your challenge, and perhaps we can have a chat over lunch. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you to the BA.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for the lunch break. Please enjoy your meal. And it's my pleasure to remind you that while enjoying your complimentary treat, you might like to visit Green Growth Exhibition Zone just outside the Grand Ballroom of the venue. Ladies and gentlemen, lunch break will be for 30 minutes. Please enjoy your meal.